Yeah, I got a lot of games to talk about. These are my personal picks, my personal favorites from the year. As you guys know, I play a lot of video games. It's my job. I see a lot of games. I tend to really like a lot of games, but only a select few. I have a list here of like 10 or so that really stick with me throughout the year. I kind of go on fun factor and stuff that I just remember or consistently keep going back to throughout the year. So I've played a lot of games, but not all of them make the list, but also there's a lot of games I still missed that I didn't get time to play, like Signalis. A lot of you guys have been recommending that to me. Haven't gotten a chance to play that, so there's going to be some omissions here and there, but I got some games that you probably expect me to talk about. I got a couple of weird ones, so let's just jump in. This first one's a little out of left field, but it is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Now, this one has definitely a personal angle to it that I will explain, but it's a damn good game. It is a side-scrolling type beat 'em up that is essentially the type of thing I grew up really enjoying, right? So I came from the era, I caught the tail end of the arcade era, so running around and playing like the Simpsons and the X-Men beat 'em up games in arcades was really like my favorite thing, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge feels like a love letter to all of that, from the incredible music they built in this game to the way the characters move, their animations, to the way they fight, but like with the little modernizations to make it a little bit more playable, a little bit more accessible, and a little bit more fun than just an old school game. Just made it a really, really fun playthrough, and playing through with another person made it that much more special. But I love these types of games, and playing through this kind of reminded me, like I needed a little bit of like almost like a slap in the face and a reminder, right? Because have even before I played video games as part of my job and talked about games, I've always been a progressive gamer, I guess you would call it. I'm always like on to the next thing, trying the new thing, seeing what the new thing is, being excited about a new innovation or a new platform. I've always been like, what's next? What's next? Like about the future of games. But it took a game like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge to really remind me, yeah, dude, you are getting old. Not really, but a reminder of like where it started, or at least where it started for me. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but like one of the first video games I saw was X-Men Children of the Atom. And then of course, like I mentioned before, just like all those early arcade beat 'em ups and stuff like that. And I had started with an NES, like just running around in small environments and pressing the punch button on enemies is like where it started for me. And since I'm always so forward thinking and like trying to play the next cool thing and being excited about the next cool thing, I essentially am not like a retro gamer type guy or a retro gamer YouTuber or anything like that. But Shredder's Revenge really hit for me. And I'm grateful for it like being a good game, but I'm also grateful for it like that reminder, you know, like of those old video game memories. So yeah. Next on my list is Vampire Survivors. Now, you've probably heard this from a lot of people. This has really blown up in recent weeks. Vampire Survivors is a really fun, addictive, simple game. It's like a $2-3 game, whatever it is. I forgot. There's DLC that's like $2. It's essentially the best thing money will buy. It's extremely addictive and really fun and taps into like that lizard brain endorphin rush. It's not really a very active game. It's really about moving around the environment with auto attacks. So you can chop it up to something like a clicker you'd play on a browser. But it is also kind of like this weird love letter to old Castlevania games. It's got cool music, really cool character sprites, and the way it works, and as you get more powerful and you get screen-filling attacks to progress through hordes and hordes of enemies, it's all about movement and management that gives you that thrill, that rush, and really that like, oh, just one more play, just one more, you know? I love games that get me on that. I've been hooked on roguelites and stuff like that before, but Vampire Survivors is really like its own thing. And yes, people will comment and say like, yeah, but this game does it better, or like there's another game that does it that's better, but Vampire Survivors was just the one for me that hit. So that's why I'm giving it the love. It's the one that hooked me the most. I love what it does with the music and like what it evokes. But also like I am not a poser. Like I'm not like talking about the new trendy game. I've been on this one for a while and I've been telling you guys to check this out for a while. When did I do a video? Hang on. I did a video like 6 months ago, and I've been on this, but most importantly, especially for like why I consider certain games for wrap-up lists, is that I keep coming back to it. I keep playing it. I keep hopping into it for a little bit. It's available on more platforms, and I find myself trying it on other platforms. Ultimately, I put the most time into it on Steam Deck. It's a good little on-the-go type of thing. Of course, I've talked about the Steam Deck a million times here, but yeah, Vampire Survivors at this point, like, It's really cool. You know, it might not be your thing, and I completely understand it. Like, you might think I should only be recommending like awesome gamer-y hardcore games, but I don't know. Vampire Survivors is fun and addictive, and I liked it a lot. I spent a ton of time in it, so I had to mention it here. Next game on my list is like my bread and butter, really. Plague Tale Requiem. I love story-driven, single-player, action-adventure, narrative games, and Plague Tale Requiem really hit for me. It is different than the first game. It's a little bigger, it's a little more adventurous, a lot more combat, a lot more stuff that you're doing, which I was kind of 50-50 on, really, but it still was really fun to play through from beginning to end. Some satisfying stealth moments, some horrific, incredible imagery, and wild moments. That's kind of why I really love the first game. This one isn't as like dark and dour. It's a little bit more bright and adventurous, but there's still a sense of grimness to everything and just how horrific this rat plague really is. But along with that, it's really just the story here and the emotional hit. Like, this game really set out to tell a story with some actual genuine emotion, some characters you'll be drawn to or attached to, and it worked. The payoff was so worth it. I love the first game. It was really, really cool. And then this game, like, it kind of cashed some of the checks it wrote with developing the characters and you getting to know them. It had some really incredible big action set piece moments, but it was those individual character moments that really, really did it for me. And I'm still thinking about it. It's actually the one of the games, I think the only game this year, really, with the story that got me like genuinely emotional. God of War did some great stuff, but there's a moment or two in A Plague Tale Requiem that, like, I actually felt something. There was a moment or two that actually got me a little choked up. You chalk that up to, again, great character writing and all that, but also some really incredible voice acting. Charlotte McBurney, who did Amicia's voice, really stepped it up from the first game. Like, she was great in the first game, but she's absolutely incredible here. She should win all the awards. Really loved what they did here, and chalked also up some incredible music, some of the best kind of big orchestral themes I've heard this year in a video game. It's really just worth a playthrough straight up. If you like stories, if you like adventures, if you like cinematic games with characters that'll hook you, I cannot recommend it enough. I had been screaming from the rooftops about A Plague Tale Innocence, and now Requiem, pretty much the same exact thing, dude. Another one I didn't expect on my game of the year list, but here we are. I always, every once in a while, have like a weird mobile game surprise. Don't get mad at me, but Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap, I absolutely love. I am hooked on that shit. I actually, believe it or not, was a Hearthstone guy for a while back when that first launched. And now I am a Marvel Snap guy. It's different in terms of card games than a Hearthstone, but it's got that same level of addiction for me, that on-the-go playing that I really enjoy. Does it have mobile game stuff? Are there currencies? Is there money you can spend? Yes. Does any of it feel predatory? No. I haven't felt forced to pay up to anything. So there's that. I do want to at least mention that stuff because I do always talk about how bad some of the monetization in video games can be. And, you know, to talk about a mobile game that I actually liked and got hooked on does make things a little dicey, but I can't help it. I enjoyed what I enjoyed. And to make it personal again, as a kid, I was big on trading cards, specifically comic book trading cards. You know, like everybody had those X-Men cards, those Spider-Man cards, those holographic Batman cards and Spawn cards. I had a big box and I would open them up and just look at all my cards all day and read about all these fun characters. And Marvel Snap basically is that. There is some incredibly awesome character art for all these cool cards. You upgrade the cards to make them holographic and stuff like that. It's like chintzy bullshit, but I'm into it. I love comic books. I love comic book heroes, and it has also been really nice to just see, you know, not just Iron Man and Captain America. You know, like there's some real deep cuts with these cards, and that just made me really happy to play through and discover just really cool shit. It's another one where I didn't really think about putting it on the list until I really sat down and considered, because I was like, yeah, I spent a lot of time playing that and I had a lot of fun throughout. So yeah. Next up, of course, an obligatory mention to Elden Ring. It's probably the game I dumped the most hours into this year, and it's great. I don't really know what I can say at this point about Elden Ring, but as someone who isn't immediately drawn to loving FromSoft games, Soulsborne games, I appreciate them. By Dark Souls 3 I kind of really, yeah, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3 is when I started to really understand them and really appreciate them. They're still just not my favorite thing. I'm just not into like really punishing games. But something about the way Elden Ring did it all, I really liked it. I love their take on open world. I love just kind of stumbling upon things endlessly, little weird hidden things. I like this dour, depressing, but mysterious and fantastical world that felt slightly off from their previous endeavors and worlds they built. I love the art. I love the boss designs, the incredible bombastic score. It was just a satisfying one. And it was one that, like, you know, I naturally kind of suck at these games at first, and I persevered, and I felt properly rewarded with a bunch of fun and a bunch of cool shit to discover and just satisfaction. You know, so Elden Ring, yeah. Also, I kind of spoiled this one when I talked about it, but it turned out I was right. Rollerdrome is pretty much my game of the year. It's on my list. It's high on my list. I absolutely love this game. I made a video about it. Every video that I made about any of these games, I'll link down in the description. But Rollerdrome is essentially the game I would make. Like if I had a real brain and money, like to fund a game. If somebody said, and people have asked on Q&A videos, like, hey Jake, what kind of game would you make? For me, it was always Tony Hawk, but like with guns and maybe a story. And Rollerdrome kind of scratches that. Like this, there's not too much of a story. It's kind of a background thing, world building stuff. And no, it's not skateboarding. It's like rollerblading, but it's fucking really good. Like they really nailed that concept. It's bold too, because it's a game where you can do tricks, but you can't fall. You kind of auto land, but it lets you focus on doing cool shit and moving around the environment and taking out enemies effectively and efficiently, because it can get pretty challenging. There's a lot of twitch dodging and stuff to take advantage of. The fact that you also have to do tricks constantly in order to keep your ammo up. It's a really impressive and satisfying hook. It left me wanting a lot more, I will say, but with its design and essentially giving you maps and then giving you a Tony Hawk list of objectives to do, like find the secret tape, get the high score, do a special trick over this jump. Like it gave you that type of stuff. And I am a sucker for that. I love the Tony Hawk games more than anything. So I was all in here. Not to mention it just had a little bit of a different art style, different musical style, a little bit of different tone to it that you don't usually see in games. Also really helped. But it could have just been blocks. Everybody could have just been blobs. And it's just that raw gameplay, that fun, that satisfaction of capping an enemy while grinding on a rail and then backflipping off and taking out a rocket launcher and exploding another dude. Really, really worked for me. It's so satisfying. It's like the best money spent. It wasn't a full price game. I freaking loved it. I still go back here now and then and do a run. Like, do I play it as much as I play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? No, but it still makes me smile and like be a sweaty and grip my controller just as much. So I think that counts for something. Next up, Pentiment. Now, this is a recent game. I don't really think it's recency bias because I have played a bunch more games after it released, but Pentiment really hit for me. I am not usually a narrative-driven, like point-and-click adventure type guy. There's a certain few that I really like, but Pentiment really resonated with me just because of how different it is. It tapped into, you know, my love of like some history stuff, some art history stuff specifically, but also telling an interesting story, one that is twofold. It's educational, it's excited about the time period, the arts, the culture, the history, the wars, everything about it. It is willing to teach you, and it has really cool creative tools to do so, right? Which like might sound boring. You don't want to play a boring educational game, but like they nailed it. I actually cared and I learned. But also the fact that like you're playing through it and it's telling a story that is actually human as hell. It's a real ass story. As much as it's like old timey 15th, 16th century Bavaria, it tells a story with gray areas and nuance, with people in a world filled with all kinds of things that like we don't know about today. Different types of religious traditions, cultural traditions, economic conditions, socioeconomic conditions, stuff that like we don't really get, right? But with the way the characters are written, they still come off so human, and you kind of get them processing this world. And it's really interesting. Like I just really liked what they did here with the main character specifically, and this like weird murder adventure he goes through that spans multiple time periods is just satisfying. Again, it might not be for everybody, but for me, it ended up kind of being like my little storybook game. I would play a little bit of it every night before I went to bed, and that hit for me, man. Next up, of course, it is God of War Ragnarok. Now, this is an interesting one because we're a little bit further away from it now, or at least I am. I played it and finished it. I definitely like the God of War 2018 more. I think it's just the smaller nature of it, the intimacy of the story. Things go bigger and crazier in this one, and ultimately in a way that I do still like. I've been playing God of War since God of War 1, so to see a little bit of a return to things getting a little bigger, more gods being dicks and getting their face punched in was very cool to see. It felt evocative of those old games, and I really, really liked that. And ultimately, seeing Kratos, especially a character I've been with for so long, who was Zeus, just like a asshole shit guy, go to God of War 2018 and like be this stoic, still mean, but like ultimately good father. And then now to Ragnarok, seeing that hard father finally loosen up and express himself a little bit was just nice to see. I just liked that. Like, it felt very real. I could kind of relate to it a little bit, and I took away something from that, right? But I think for me, really what I liked the most about Ragnarok was just the video gamey side of it. There was a lot more to play, a lot more to do, and I just liked all that. I liked all the side quests. I liked those big little worlds they dump you into that you would just stumble upon to do more quests for. I love the combat. I love the combat in 2018, but I love more opportunities here with this one. I liked playing as Atreus for the most part, really. I really just had a good old-fashioned video game fun time, an adventure, a big old AAA adventure I played through that had a good story and satisfying gameplay. I think it's definitely like just a good, big old achievement, I do wonder where things could possibly go next. I don't know. The Friends Per Second podcast, we got to talk to Eric Williams, the director of God of War Ragnarok. I wasn't there. I was sick. But still, it's a good interview, and listening to interview back, hearing from him, and just like, I don't know, I'm just curious to see like where things could possibly go. But really just like whatever Sony Santa Monica is going to make at this point, I'm interested. Next one on my list is a game I don't think I did a full dedicated video about, believe it or not. But it's Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb I was late to the party on it, and it was kind of like my in-between game. It was like the game I'd play in between like the releases of the big games, and I love it. I love it so much. It's another like addictive jam, but also it's like a good lo-fi chill-out game. It is equal parts kind of fun little towny buildy simulator type thing, like an Animal Crossing, or even like a kind of giving it a little bit of a Dark Cloud spin where you go out, you do RPG dungeon crawling stuff, and then you come back and you bring your goodies to the town. I love that type of loop, and I think the pitch of Cult of the Lamb is perfect. It's this cutesy little yay animal town builder like Animal Crossing, but you're actually building a cult, and you are trying to get this demonic cult built up for these ancient demons, and you're also going out in the woods and doing Zelda-style dungeon crawling quests that are pretty damn satisfying. Like the combat isn't like top to bottom like 10 out of 10 perfect, but it is really, really good. It's got some great boss battles, some really, really cool enemy designs, and really, really good kind of like lo-fi music. This was a chill-out game. Essentially, like people talk about that genre of like cozy games, cozy Switch games like Bear and Breakfast and Animal Crossing or a million other indies. This is like the cozy Switch game for people who like murder and dungeon crawling and stuff. And I freaking love that. I didn't expect to love this game so much. I had seen people talking about it. I said, okay, that seems cool. I jumped in, and then I did not put it down until I finished it. Good shit. Last but certainly not least on my list, Sifu. I love Sifu, and it's very interesting for me. It was a tough year for me because, like I said, I'm not someone who necessarily goes for games that like beat your ass and you really, really have to like it. Like, I'm not immediately a Souls guy, so it's interesting with both Elden Ring being great and this and them really hooking me. It's been a trip for sure, but Sifu, I think, was really worth the journey, really worth my frustration and getting over the fact that I suck at video games and trying to get better at it, just because I love what they built. I love the studio. I loved Absolver. I loved seeing what they took from that and putting it here in a really cool style and presentation, a celebration of martial arts and martial arts cinema, but really it being its own unique thing with a really, really cool loop. You've probably heard about it by now, but the aging mechanic, when you die, you come back older. All of it was really satisfying from a video game sense. That whole loop, but also the combat. The combat's incredible. It's so good. It's just how it goes is so satisfying. The dodging, the blocking, the parrying, the finishers, every single hit, every animation, every sound effect is just perfect. I really, really like movies like The Matrix and Ip Man and John Wick and every fight scene from Daredevil, the Netflix show. So this game was the playable version of that. Finally, we have so many games out there that give you cool finishing moves, right? Like you're playing a cool game with some cool combat or cool shooting, and then you press triangle at the guy, and then your character does a cool thing. Well, this game actually let you do that cool thing throughout combat sequences. It's not just canned shit. And it really, really, really not only made it satisfying to play through, but for me, kind of made it like something I just wanted to play again and again. I love the combat so much that I did not mind endlessly repeating a stage because I suck that much. The look of the environments, the enemies, the fact that you take advantage of the environments and throw enemies into a wall for contextual actions, throw people through windows, pick up bottles or cups, throw it at people, use different weapons with their own unique animations. All of it was just so perfectly well thought out and just damn good video game stuff. Not to mention the fact that they're making it even better. The developers have been updating it with different modes, an easier mode, a scored mode, more options, more skins, and now they've announced like an arena mode, and the game is coming to more platforms. I think it's a win. I think everybody should at least check this game out in some way. You have community people making really cool videos out of it, like Voyager's Revenge, doing like a Daredevil skin playthrough where it just looks awesome and edited. It just feels really good that like I feel like I've been like wanting somebody out there to make a game like this forever, and somebody finally did. And it's pretty excellent. That's essentially like a list of 10 games, but there's more. You know, I can't help myself. Evil West, I've talked about that a lot, but as a video game, it's just like a early mid-2000s type thing that you play through with cool combat and monster killing. I had a lot of fun with that one, but also from earlier in the year, The Quarry. I've talked about that a bit already, but The Quarry was just some good old horror stuff, a little bit lighter than some of their previous games, but I really, really dug that. Also, the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe Edition, I loved it when that game initially released. I like now that more people can play it on different platforms, and the stuff they added to the game to justify replaying it is really fucking good. This game is great comedy, great writing, satisfying, weird, quirky, inquisitive playthroughs. It's one of those games where like don't watch someone play it, or like, you know, don't read about it. Just really check it out for yourself. Try and go in blind if that's even possible at this point. You should. Also, to give some love to my Switch crowd, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Really, really liked it. A really good JRPG. Probably my favorite of the Chronicles by far, like from the music to the sci-fi world they built to the combat kind of being just right finally. That was a good one. And someone who over the course of this year became such a Steam Deck weirdo, it was nice to have a good reason to play my Switch, and this was it. That's where I'm at with games this year. I know I've played a lot. If you look at the before you buy, my body of work, so to speak, there's a lot of shit I played that I didn't have time to talk about here that I still ultimately loved. These are the ones that keep coming to mind for me. Now, I know you guys got your own list, so I want to hear that in the comments. And please, there should be no shame. If you've only played 2 games this year, let me know those 2 games and let me know why you loved them. Doesn't even matter if they came out this year. We all have games to catch up on. If you played something from last year, this year, and you loved it so much and it's in your top 5, your top 3, whatever, I want to hear it. Because essentially, these videos just really work as recommendations, right? This isn't a video where I'm like, these are by God decreed the best games of 2022. No, these are just the ones I like. So take it as like a fun recommendation list. So I want to hear yours. Other people are going to see games you recommend in the comments and maybe check them out. So let me know. Really though, more than anything, and I've said it in other videos for the end of the year here, thank you for coming around. If you've been with me from the beginning, or if you found me this year, thank you. On this channel, I'm just talking about shit I love, and I love video games and movies and stuff. So if you get it, if you appreciate it, I think the internet needs more of just stuff you like. Clicking a like button helps me out. Sticking around helps me out. Thank you to YouTube membership and Patreon people for backing me up. But all of you, Thank you for being here. I'm Jake Baldino. Happy New Year. Be safe. See you guys next time. Pizza's on me. Subscribe because video games. That's a lot of outro phrases. Jesus Christ.